So, hi, Eagles. My name is Chris Oliver, and I am the state coordinator for Alaska. On this call with me today, and my co-host du jour is our area director, Chris Lord. And I've asked Chris just to monitor the chat for me, just to make sure that we get everybody taken care of. So I am super excited that we were able to add Alaska as one of the inaugural Eagle expeditions. We have titled it Alaska Midnight Sun, and as you can tell over my left shoulder, that is my nice blazing sunshine that's coming through my window. It's just been so great to have it back. When you don't have sunshine for a while, it's so nice to see it. So let's just go over kind of like what the big idea is for this camp, and kind of, I shouldn't say camp, but for this excursion, and what you can expect from the Last Frontier. So our weekend, it is over Memorial Day weekend, and we are going to Valdez, Alaska. So Valdez, Alaska, it is a personal favorite of mine. And so we kind of, it'll give you a real taste of what Alaska is really not like, rather than like going to like the Disney World of Alaska, i.e. Anchorage. And so Valdez is a really historically important city for our state. It is a main hub for fishing. It is one of the main hubs for transportation within our state. It's also, if anybody knows about the pipeline, that's actually the terminus of the pipeline, the one that runs all the way from Prudhoe Bay. It runs down to Valdez. And so a lot of people want to call it Valdez because it looks like Valdez, but no, it's Valdez. And so going back to our history, the Exxon Valdez oil spill was there. So just one of those things is like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember that big oil spill in Alaska back in the 80s. Yeah, it was right there in this bay. So getting here, I think that's one of the most important things that we need to cover tonight is as far as getting here, you would fly into Anchorage International. From Anchorage, you have two choices. You can either fly into Valdez, and we do have a smaller regional airline called Raven that provides that air service. And Raven, if you're taking notes, is RAVN, Raven, Alaska. And so Raven does provide the air service between Anchorage and Valdez. Now, if you are up for a little bit more adventure, because if you're flying all this way, please enjoy our state. It is a 300-mile drive from Anchorage to Valdez. And as I've been telling Chris, and I know I've got Caitlin on the line too, it is just 300 miles of nothing to look at. Nothing at all. Because it's all glaciers and mountains and rivers and wildlife and wilderness. It is one of the most beautiful drives that I've actually ever driven on. It is actually one of my preferred drives. We call it the long way to Anchorage when we go around that way versus right down the highway to get to Anchorage. But it is literally one of the best drives in the world. From the actual road itself, please be sure that if you're driving, you keep your eyes on the road. The passengers get to go ooh ah and look at everything. And trust me, there are plenty of points to stop off on to actually take a look. But you will see glaciers. You will see basically what we call our glacial rivers. Everything will be in meltdown. So we actually won't we will still have some snow and ice to play in a little bit in May. Even though, yeah, it's technically on the way to summer, we'll still get a little cool. But anyway, I cannot say enough good things about driving because it is my favorite drive. So on that, if you are ready, if you are, like I said, interested in driving, that would be one of the things that I know when we get our group up and running on the new Team RWB app, we'll be able to maybe even connect a couple of folks. So that way maybe carpooling and things can happen from there. So once you get to Valdez, because of course, the whole thing is how do I get there, right? And then what do I do? The way that we have this set up is that it is a choose your own Alaskan adventure. So we are offering you a menu of options that you can go and do. Some of them are self-guided. Others are part of tours. And if any of you have actually gone through and done the interest forms, you'll kind of see what those menu of options are, because we're trying to gauge interest. So that way we can make sure that we're providing all of the information possible for you. In that choose your own adventure, you can choose to be as adventurous as you like or as chill as you like. There is room for everybody in our great state. And so Valdez has a lot of accessible activities, and there's activities for every fitness level. So our goal, one of our overriding goals, is that I wanted to be sure that when I was creating this experience for everyone, that you would feel empowered to come up here and experience our state, just knowing that really the only thing you have to worry about is the bears, and don't worry, we will partner you with an Alaskan. We will take care of you. So we just want you to get out here and have a good time and experience the state that we love so much. So when you get into Valdez, we have hotel options, but there's also a camping option. The two current hotels we are working with, again, we had to gauge interest just to see how many rooms we would need to block and then start to work on discounts for you. But there are two main hotels. The first one is a Best Western, and it's right there on the bay. The other one is kind of a locally operated inn. It's called the Totem Inn. And so I know that we're working to see what we can do to get, group discounts and other things, but we'll be booking a block of rooms, and that will kind of be our primary spot. For those of you who would like to camp, or for those of you who are maybe even a little bit more adventurous, there is a campground that is available. It's called Eagles Rest. And you can do one of three things there. They have cabins that you can rent. They do have a tent camping area if you want to tent camp, or they have basically camping spots with power and water, etc. So if you are in our state and you have a camper like me, then you can just go ahead and go there. But there are places in Alaska that you can do a fly and drive rental for RVs. So if that's something you're interested in, again, just let me know and I'll give you all the information I've got. Our idea, like I said, our plan is to have points where we'll all come together as an Eagle family. We're hoping to have like a nightly social. Of course, also giving a nod to whatever COVID restrictions are in play in that area at the time. But we're hoping to have a nightly social so that way everybody can come together and just mingle and tell stories and tell fish stories and everything else. But the day is yours to go and explore. So let's talk a little bit about that menu of activities that we'll have for you. The first activity that we'll have on our list is a welcome social. And during that welcome social, again, that's just going to be time for us to get to know one another and just kind of hang out. Ideally, break bread and just you'll get to know some of the Alaskans and just hear all of our stories about what we've loved about Valdez and this state. And maybe even make connections with other Eagles that have come in that might be on that same activity with the next day. Just so that way, maybe, it can be a little less, hey, I'm so-and-so, you've already broken that ice a little bit with someone. And so the way we have and that would be your Friday night. Your Saturday and Sunday, that's when your menu of options opens up. So the first thing that we've got on the trip is it would not be a trip to Alaska if you did not go fishing. So we have put a charter fishing expedition on there, or a charter fishing option on there. The charter fishing at that point in time would be for halibut and rockfish. So, nothing like a halibut fresh out of the water. I'm just going to tell you that. Just FYI, for those of you who are interested in the costs, right now, that fishing trip is between $300 and $350 per person. It does not include your fishing license. Your fishing license is additional to that. But again, we'll provide all of that information. And also just know that as we get the interest in, we'll be able to go and say, okay, obviously it'll be cheaper for us if we have 10 people who want to go on a halibut charter. It actually might be cheaper for us to go ahead and just reserve an entire boat and then put all 10 Eagles on that same boat. And we might get that cost down to, $275. And then of course, Chris and I are working on also bringing in sponsorships for businesses to help us sponsor our veterans who are coming. So that way they can experience it. What you can expect from a halibut trip. Well, what you can expect is you can expect a time on a boat. The seas might be choppy. The seas might be calm. It might be raining. It might be sunny. It might be windy. It just is what it is because it's Mother Nature and it's whatever she gives us. The captains that I have put on the list of the captains I want to work with, they have been individually recommended by our longtime Alaskan Eagles here in town. So these are the boat captains that either have a connection to a veteran. Like my number one is Jason with Halibut Grove. I love him to death. His dad is a retired Air Force. They stayed in Alaska, moved down to Valdez, and he became a boat captain. And now his son basically is the boat captain, and he just runs the reservations. And so what you'll find there's a lot of little mom and pop shops like that. And they have all sorts of stories. When you do have your catch though, your captain will help you haul it up. They'll help you take pictures. They'll help you do whatever it is you need in order to get that fish and land that fish. When you come back to the dock, there are fish services in that they will actually clean your fish, and then you can take it right across the street to the freeze, and the freeze will actually vacuum seal, flash freeze, and ship your fish for you. So you don't even have to worry about taking care of that. It's all right there on the dock. And it's pretty awesome. For those of you who don't want to ship, don't worry. They will hold it until your departure, and you can get it, and you can actually bring it in your carry-on. You can actually have them pack it ready for you to go on the airplane. So that's the halibut fishing. The other activity, because you're coming to Alaska, you want to see glaciers. So obviously, for those of you who don't take the long way from Anchorage, there are lots of glaciers that are right there, and the glacier tour is one of the most fun things that you can do. So again, it is a day on the water, and you can expect what you expect out of the water. But the nice thing about these glacier tours is that they do also partner with wildlife tours. So if there's whales, you'll see a whale. If there's eagles, you'll see eagles. If there are seals, you'll see the seals, and they will get you as close as safely possible to the glaciers. We have lots of glaciers that are in that area. And they've got a couple of them that they like to go to. A lot of it just depends on what the seas are doing that day, and basically how much time we have on the boat. The glacier tours are typically $150 per person. The one that I have recommended that we take, the outfit, it actually does include a lunch, so a small lunch on there, so your lunch is taken care of. And again, just know costs. With us, we're hoping to get, you know, as many sponsorships as possible to make this happen for you. For the land lovers, so for those of us who aren't necessarily, you know, it's nice, I like the ocean, but the ocean can stay there, I don't do well on boats or whatever, we've got lots of different land options for you as well. We have a kayaking. So for those of you who are a little bit more active, we have a kayaking, and it's a glacier kayak tour. And what you do is you actually put it in. It is on a lake. It's not on the ocean, but you actually paddle across the glacier lake, and you actually paddle right up to the glacier to go see it. It is a pretty amazing thing to get that close and touch a glacier. So again, that one would be a little bit more active. You know, you would need to make sure that you can kayak, but we may have some options on there for you as well. For the other land lovers, we have a hike 2 ways. So we're going to be heading out to the Worthington Glacier. Again, coming to Alaska, you got to come see all of our ice. The Worthington Glacier is one of the most accessible glaciers. For those of you who are driving, you will drive right past it and you'll go, ooh, why can't we stop here? And because it's pretty amazing. For those of you who are going to go on the hike, we'll have basically transportation to where the hike is. And then from there, there's actually a couple of different trails that are available, and that we're working on making sure that we at least have one good lead on each type of trail. Now, if there is enough interest, Chris, you're gonna laugh, but Ron has decided that he's like, yeah, let's go up on the glacier and we'll get crampons and everything. So if there are people who are interested in doing something a little bit more, trust me, I have leaders who would love to bring you to do something a little bit more. Of course he did, right? I mean, it's a glacier, we got to go walk on it. So the last option, and it's one that I personally love, it's a fisheries and history tour. So again, it is for your land lovers, but Valdez is home to a lot of history for our state. Okay, I already told you about it, that it's right there at the pipeline. We actually do have a fisheries there, so a hatchery. And it's part of our salmon cycle. So for those of you who don't know, the Valdez, the river that goes up, it's part of the Copper River Basin. Who's heard of Copper River salmon around here? Anybody know about the Copper River salmon? That's where this stuff comes from. The Copper River, oh, by the way, for those of you driving, you'll drive through the Copper River Basin, FYI. But the Copper River, that's actually it's got one of the largest salmon returns in the world. And so part of the fisheries tour would actually give you information on just kind of some of the environmental things that we are trying to do to make sure that we are sustainably catching and maintaining our salmon, and just kind of like what they do every year. And you'll be able to see, like, you know, how they do the return and what they do and how they mix some of these fish that are actually within the hatchery with the wild fish, and how that actually impacts the population. The history tour would include 2 different things. We've got an amazing museum that's there that actually talks about a lot of just the native history within the area, and just kind of the significance of the area and of the Prince Edward Sound. But it also talks about the 1964 earthquake. So the 1964 earthquake, or what we all call the Good Friday earthquake up here, It was an earthquake that happened on the evening of Good Friday, and we actually pretty much lost the town. So the old town site is completely gone, and they actually had to build an all new town. Now, this was actually one of the largest recorded earthquakes in North America. And a lot of our earthquake science, a lot of our seismology, and a lot of our research actually was jump-started by this earthquake. So it's really, really amazing to actually look through and see what it is. Valdez is also one of the main entry points when people were coming to the Yukon for our Yukon Gold Rush. So a lot of people would come up here, and there are historic trading lines that actually come in through here. And so there's a lot of Gold Rush history that's in this area. The last thing is the Richardson Highway. The Richardson Highway is the road that connects Valdez to Fairbanks and then on into Prudhoe Bay. And the Richardson Highway actually existed prior to the building of the Alaska Highway, or the Alcan is what we call it. But it was one of the main sources of how we actually drove all of our military goods and trades up here into Fairbanks. It just didn't come through on the Yukon River and up through the rivers. It actually did go through the pass there from Valdez. So lots of things to do, 2 days to do it in. On that Monday, it is a travel day. So we thought that we would start kind of with a morning reveille and a 5K for Memorial Day. Just because, there's nothing quite like running through the streets of town, proudly wearing your red RWB shirt and carrying a flag, right? Especially on something as important as Memorial Day. And so we'll be working with the city of Valdez to get the appropriate permitting in order to allow us to do a 5K there, just in and through the streets of Valdez. Other than that, Monday is your travel day back. So what we're hoping is that that you'll think about extending your stay and maybe going to go visit Denali or go up to Fairbanks, or any and all points in between, or of course, just booking your flight home and then making plans to come back. So one of the last things I did want to cover was just weather and what to expect. So it will be May. And May in Alaska is a couple of different things. It can be warm, or it can be cold, or it can be something in between. And so what I was trying to explain to Chris is, like, if you get in your head and everybody just think Seattle weather, that's pretty much what you can expect in Valdez. It is a sea town. And so you can get fog, you can have rain, you can have like days of drizzle followed by blazing sunshine. And I've been there for all of it. Highs are usually in the 60s. Lows can get right above freezing, just so that way you kind of know what to expect. So other than that, Chris, I have not been watching the chat. So did I answer all the questions?
I think you hit just about everything. You mentioned the activities, sporty ones versus maybe less so, additional costs for a fishing license. We're working on accommodations. There is a question about, are the events capped at a certain number of people? And if so, what is the criteria for selecting?
Okay, so as far as the event caps, no. So if we have 14 people who want to sign up for a halibut charter, we will find 14 spots for a halibut charter. I do believe that the sea kayaking is capped at 8, but we can actually expand that not sea kayaking, the glacier kayak is capped at 8, but I think that we can add another guide and then go up to 16 from there. So a lot of it just depends on how many people. What we may have to do for some of the activities is we may have to, like, for example, the fisheries tour. If we have 30 people who want to go on the fisheries tour, again, COVID concerns, we may have to break parties up into maybe, 3 tours of 10, for example. And that one allows our tour guide not to be so overwhelmed. And then 2, that also allows us to mitigate any potential COVID concerns that we may have.
Just piggybacking off of that, is there a cap on the overall Eagle expedition?
So we have room for 50 eagles. So when we say 50, we're talking 50 adults. Now we do know that kids are going to come, and that's fine. This, by the way, this is very kid friendly, FYI. My kids go to Valdez and go fishing all the time. And so that would be part of our things. But as far as the 50 is concerned, that's more along the lines of, we are having some sponsorship and scholarship dollars that are going to be applied. So 50 is the number that we're going for those sponsored folks. But of course, the information is here, and you can always come and do these. It just might be full price rather than the reduced pricing.
Okay, there's a couple other questions here. As far as the travel piece, just to confirm, people will be arranging their own travel. We're not like previous camps and such, perhaps, where we were kind of brokering the travel, but people are arranging their own travel.
Correct. And on the travel, FYI, that's part of the sponsorships. We have reached out to Alaska Airlines to see if they wouldn't mind donating us some vouchers. So that would be part of that sponsorship that I just mentioned, Chris.
And how far is Fairbanks from Valdez, and are the events both Saturday and Sunday?
So Fairbanks to Valdez, 350 miles. It takes 8-ish hours. And when I say 8-ish hours, a lot of it just depends on the condition of the road. There's a couple of spots there. We have what one would call frost heaves. And so what frost heaves are is think about potholes, but imagine if the asphalt didn't go away. So you like really are like doing this, and you're on a roller coaster all the way up and down the road. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, just it's one of those things of like, if you see a tractor trailer going slow, you might want to go slow. And then what was the second question, Chris?
Just confirming. So events are both Saturday and Sunday.
Correct.
And shuttle services from lodging to events, is that going to be something kind of throughout the weekend then? Okay.
Correct. A lot of things. So Valdez, literally it's a walking town, but so like if you're going on one of the charters, you would just walk down to the dock that morning. Same thing with the glacier tour. But for something like the hike, then yes, we would be providing that charter service, or to get out to the Worthington Glacier, because it's a good 30 minutes away. And just by that waterfall I sent you and Caitlin the picture of, again, nothing to look at here.
And then I don't necessarily know if we have information on this yet. We're still doing some inquiring, but a question about how would the sponsorships be applied?
So that's actually what we're dealing with right now. So a lot of the reason why we have this interest form going out is so that way we can see, okay, this is kind of like the big idea, but if there's only like 1 or 2 people who want to go on the history and fishing tour, the history and fisheries tour, that just might be something that I provide the information for versus going all out and planning it. So what it all depends on is there's a couple of different things that are happening here. Is that we are going to local businesses, and also when I say local, I mean, Alaska businesses. And we're looking at corporations to, sponsor our Eagles. We're also looking to get big group discounts with some of these boats. As I said before, if we have 14 people who want to go on a fishing charter, and we find a boat captain that can take 15 people, and it actually will cost us the same as 10 people, then that's what we'll do. And we'll apply that discount to everybody. So all 14 get to go. But perhaps your cost is $250 rather than $350. Of course, if we get additional funding, so funding mean from like corporate sponsors, that will actually then be trickling down. As far as like who gets what discount, we're looking to make sure that we are, again, providing the most bang for our buck for all of our members. We're going to be looking at whether or not you're a veteran, so what's your military status, whether or not you've ever been to Alaska before, which I looked at that question, and overwhelmingly, like I think 20% had only been to Alaska before, and I think 20% they were my Alaska Eagles that were applying. And so, and also we'll be looking at, are you an Eagle leader? Because I have a soft spot in my heart for Eagle leaders. And, sometimes we don't get to do fun stuff. Sometimes we always have to plan the fun stuff. So anyway, did I answer that, Chris?
Yes, thank you. I'm just looking at chat. There's a gentleman who mentioned checking with the Fallen Outdoors Alaska chapter. I'm not familiar. Okay. And then
yes.
Go ahead.
We have a couple of different things that we're working with. So one is the Fallen Outdoors. We do have Wounded Warrior Project up here as well, and they are on our hit list of I hate to say, when I say hit list, I mean like I'm hitting them up. We also have Healing Waters, which is another fishing type guide service. I know that Chris, you and I had talked about it, but this would be that if you wanted to expand that Alaska vacation, we do have relationships with some of the dog kennels. So if you wanted to go see some of the sled dogs, then yeah, we can get you to go see the sled dogs. So all sorts of different things are kind of in play with that. And it all just depends on that interest and how the interests come out.
Okay, there's another question here on timeline for finalizing signups and the commitment to go.
Okay, so our application is open until the
March
31st.
30th. I think we shut it at 30th? The 30th. Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember if it was the 30th or the 31st. I went back. I was like, I can't remember. I knew I should have looked that up before. But no, that is our shut off, if you will, that first shut off. And so what will happen from there is we'll be doing a lot of our kung fu, if you will, with our check-in data and everything else, just going back and making sure, and matching up and seeing. And as I said before, we have room for 50 sponsored Eagles. So just remember that this interest form is actually what gets you to be a sponsored person. This trip is available for anybody to come. Alaska is open. So this is just to get kind of that, basically get in on those discounts, if you will. But my hope is to have all of that communication back out by the next week. So that way we can get everybody lined up and really work on getting those charters set up. As I shared with Chris before, we have our big outdoor shows here in April. And so we need to get those charters set up before those outdoor shows start to fill up, start going on, and then those charters fill up and disappear.
And will there be a separate application from the interest form?
Yes. So my idea is say, okay, you've been selected, and then we would need that confirmation back that you are taking, that you, yes, I am committing to taking this spot.
And I think the only thing was just confirming for those that fly to Anchorage and choose to drive to Valdez, the distance of that drive, that's about how much of a
Anchorage to Valdez is 300 miles.
Okay.
Can you tell I've done this, but I've made these drives, guys. I love these drives. These are actually some of my favorite drives. Oh, I see one. Okay, so Marty. Marty asked, are they going to be required to pay up front for the fishing trip or kayaks, or is it going to be handled day of? A lot of these outfits actually do require payment in full to hold your spot. And so when we actually go to book, that'll be part of that when we go back to you and say, okay, you've been selected, and we'll come back to you to get exactly what it is that you're looking for. And then we'll be able to get those costs back to you pretty quickly from there.
And Corey just dropped the dates in there. Thank you, Corey.
Oh, thank you, Corey.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so here's my pitch. My pitch to come to Alaska: don't do it. There's nothing up here for you to see. There's nobody, there's nothing. But I'm just going to tell you that one of the taglines from Valdez is even Mother Nature plays favorites, and we seem to be on that list. So it's just gorgeous. Oh, I see somebody is asking, I can bring my husband, and they would just need to have your husband apply. Tiana, have your husband apply. I'm not saying no to nobody yet. Okay, so if you're tired of typing and just want to come off mute and ask a question, I'm going to leave this open. But if not, come north to Alaska. You won't regret it. I promise you. As I told Chris, do you remember how much sunlight I told you we're going to have then?
I mean, it was at least 12 hours, wasn't it?
There will be 18 hours of light.
Wow. I was thinking 12 hours of full sun, but okay. Yeah.
Well, no. It's 18 hours of day. No, it's 18 hours of day. It doesn't really get dark. So basically what happens is the sun goes behind the mountains. So the sun will go behind the mountains a little bit, and it'll dip like this, and then starts coming up, and it goes around. And it's kind of this interesting thing. It actually to watch the sun up here in Alaska.
So Caitlin does want to know if the hotels have blackout curtains.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I love my sleep. You guys know that, so.
Yes, ma'am. We all have blackout curtains here. I know you can't see, but there. You can't see anything. And that's a blackout shade on top of the blackout curtain, FYI.
But when I was there in January of that year, and I looked out my hotel window at 10:30 in the morning, it looked like it was about 11 o'clock at night. So the reverse experience for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And still very awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a Alaska is just, it's an amazing state. It just really, really is. Just like I said, a little bit more about me is we moved up here in October of 2013, and I'm a military brat on top of married to military. And I have never sprouted roots before until I got to this state. And I fell in love with this state in the middle of winter, not in summer, which is saying something because I'm originally from Jacksonville, Florida, and I fell in love with Alaska. And so, yeah, and then summer came, and I'm just like, oh, smokes. And then winter came again, and I fell even more in love with this state. So there is just something special. There is it's a lot of raw, unspoiled beauty up here. Like I said, just nothing to look at. Miles and miles of just nothing but mountains and rivers and wilderness.
Hey, Chris, just a quick comment. So thanks for the information. Today, the directors and I, we were just chatting back and forth, just talking about the adventures. And I mean, we knew the adventures are coming and they're cool. Like, I'm like, rim to rim, when can I sign up? Grand Canyon, let's do it. Like, there's nothing yet, right? That's like my bucket list. But we know that these trips are not free. Like, we know that they're not going to be free. But going through the information and just kind of reading that first, it's first contact today. Hey, this is out. Go to the Zoom call for your Q&A. And again, this is where you get that information. Is I think if there was a way as this matures, right, that first adventure into the next adventure and subsequent ones, is to just ensure that we are communicating. We Eagle Leaders, we the organization is to ensure like, hey, this isn't a free trip. We're not flying you. We're not paying for your hotel. There is some out of pocket expenses, and I think if we articulate that, I think folks are gonna be like, cool, I'm in. I'm good with that. But I think just letting them know up front, there is going to be some upfront costs. So be prepared. It could be less than, what we expected up front because of the number of participants, or whatever it may be. But we're going to try to give you the best experience possible, which I know that's what the goal is. So I'm excited. And again, so I'm taking a bunch of notes so we can relay to the chapter because I know folks are going to have these questions. So Orlando, our athletic director, he's on the call as well. So we're already like game planning so we can really share this information, because if we don't ask and then we won't know, right? And then we don't share. Now our chapter is like, well, I don't know, it's on there, just sign up or whatever. So I just think that information flow is so key and so important. Folks know truly what to expect. Thank you for sharing the adventure, and the Alaska sounds cool. I was there in May for when I was active duty Air Force. I visited in May, and it was weird because it was freaking daylight all day, all night. And we were out at midnight doing stuff. Can't say what I was doing, but it was fun. And I was like, it never got dark. What the heck? So, but good stuff.
Where were you at, Marty? Were you down in Anchorage or up here in Fairbanks?
We were at Anchorage, and we were downtown eating. We were at an establishment that we were at Humpy's. That's where we're at. I mean, that's where we're at. But it was a good time. We had a good time. We were doing just some work there on base. But I thought a bear was going to maul me, so I was paranoid the whole time I was there.
Don't worry. We have Alaskans. What do we say, Chris? That we'll make sure that you have your appropriate Alaskan for your adventure. So we'll have the Alaskan with you. Just don't we're not shy about wearing our hand cannons and our bear spray. So I know Chris is dying laughing at me now. So Marty, just to add on to that, I am actually making this recording, and once we get it, I'm not sure where we're going to live it, but Chris and I will work that out to make sure that everybody gets a copy of this recording as well. So anything else? I know Brett slid in here. So Brett, do you have any questions? Are you coming to Alaska camp?
I think just in the time that you've been talking, I've had at least 2 staff members reach out to me and ask if we need any extra staff help on this particular expedition. So Chris, thank you so much for this. Everyone who's on the call, I know this is a really exciting one. The other expeditions are, in my opinion, pretty exciting as well. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that this is the brass ring, right? Like, this is reaching for probably the biggest thing and most travel we've done, at least in the last few years as Team RWB. So I appreciate everyone's interest, and we're going to see how this plays out. And no matter what, it's going to be an adventure. And on that level, it's going to be a success. And whatever we do this year, I think we're just going to aim to do bigger and better next year.
Agreed. Agreed. Like I said, but look at the sunshine, Brett.
Chris, that is ridiculous.
It's 5:45. I'm so excited.
I didn't
The
even
sun's
have
still out.
sunshine here at noon.
That's actually why I picked this seat, so that way everybody can see my sunshine. So anyway, well, good. Well, if that's what you've got, I'm just going to stay on for another, 10, 15 minutes. If anybody else has any questions, I would love to answer them for you. But please, please, please reach out if you have any questions. Like if you think of anything later on, my email address is chris.oliver@teamrwb.org. I'm also on the app, so feel free. I think, Tiana, I think I was actually messaging with you earlier today on there. Oh, good question, Tiana. No, so Alaska actually is an open state. We just opened up. What they ask you to do is that if you are, and this is just current, so of course, May is forever from now. But they do ask if you are not arriving with a negative test, that you just do your best to socially distance and keep yourself separate from our smaller communities. So we would be more than happy to walk you through what that looks like. And of course, as we go in and start and basically start to get closer. Just FYI, for those of you, if you are worried about coming to Alaska, we actually lead the nation in COVID vaccines. So I don't know if that makes any difference to anyone here, but our state does lead the national average for vaccinations for both doses. So there's always that. But on that, feel free to drop off. Like I said, I'm just going to stick here and hang out if anybody has any questions, but I'm going to go ahead and just stop the recording. But thank you all for coming. Please be sure that you check in. If you didn't check in, then you really weren't here, right? And, again, you never know. There might be something coming in the mail if you check in. Just a little Alaska incentive. But thank you, everybody. Like I said, I'm staying on. Have a great night.